Boy, I missed that music because we are now back behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Berardelli and Ross Galloway, the Unabomber, apparently. You okay over there?
Listen, man, it got down to about 50 degrees where I live. I'm freezing, bro.
Oh, cry me a freaking river, man. Oh,
I'm not used to the cold anymore, man.
Well, we had a cold one yesterday around here. Got down below freezing, a lot of freezing rain, and wouldn't you know it, my car it's a rag top, and it has a leak in it.
Oh.
And let me tell you, by the time I drove home from work, I was drenched.
I thought, isn't Zoran Mamdani going to give away new ragtop cars for free soon?
Well, sooner or later. I mean, that's what I've been told. But I moved out of the city, so I guess I can't get it anymore. Oh, well. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's been a minute since we've had time to talk between me doing work and you doing community service. It's been a hell of a time. No, you haven't been. I'm
almost finished with that.
Almost done. You're almost done, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, it's been a minute since we had some time to talk some politics, man. What have you been up to the past month or so?
Well, luckily, not a lot has happened over the last few weeks, so we don't really have much to talk about
No,
catch up on.
I mean, we missed the whole Epstein files hysteria, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but I don't think we found it yet.
I was going to say that went away kind of quick. I don't know what they found in there, but all of a sudden nobody's talking about it anymore.
Yeah, I know I did a short video on it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But while I'm doing that, I had to do, I had work stuff. I'm sure we all had work stuff to do and all that. And, it was one of those things that we just had to take a break. We needed a moment.
And it's the holidays, the end of the year. Listen, nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to be stressing out over politics during the holiday season, man.
Yeah, and also, people are stressing out about what's going to be happening in, 2026, especially those in the People's Republic of New York. I did have the time to do this a little while back, right after the election. This was seen by like over 1,000 people across social media, close to like 2,000 actually across all of our platforms. But I had to give it a play today.
That there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
The red flags wave on the Brooklyn Bridge. Promises stacked higher than a pyramid ridge. Free rent, free meals, free everything free. But nothing's free when it comes with a fee.
Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again.
He says no billionaire, no landlords, no greed. But who's gonna plant all the seeds we need? I saw him marching with a megaphone loud. But where's the plan for this utopian crowd?
We have to continue to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Welcome to the People's Republic of New York, where the dreams get taxed and the buffoons all talk. Red lines stretch from the Bronx to Rockaway, hopes on layaway, and we all pay.
We have to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism.
You didn't know I made music in this time, did you?
That was awesome.
Yeah, I keep going frozen here. I got to try and having a problem moving stuff from the screen. Give me 1 second. See if I can do this, I swear. That's just remove other media from the stage. It's not letting me remove the media from the stage. What the hell here?
That's that socialism. There you go. It's already kicking in.
Hang on. Can I remove you from the stage? I'm just going to remove you for a second, see if I can. All right, so you're easily removable, but nothing else is. Oh, boy. Hey, I may need you. Oh, no, there. No. Okay, I got to remove that again. There we go. All right. Couple of glitches here. It is what it is. I blame Ross. But listen, so when you were stomping on that guy in the subway like that, how did you like maintain the pace? You know, older guy. That was impressive.
It really is shameful when you think about it, because there's a bunch of new videos too. Those are like some dated ones. Some NYU chick just got beat up on the street by a homeless guy the other day. It's, you know, the city's out of control, man. I don't know how you guys do it. I would not, you couldn't pay me. There's no salary that I would accept to move back there. None.
Yeah. I get, listen, I moved out of the city. I only work there now. I only go there in daylight hours. So, you know, the suburban life is for me, you know. Glad to see
I heard
Rick.
you live in is it true though that you live in a Somali enclave in Long Island? Is that
No, I definitely don't live in a Somali enclave. I will definitely deny that. But we will be talking about a certain Somali enclave in Minnesota, don't you know, in a little bit as we have people coming in. We also did do, you know, while we were away, I also did make a little bit of a short video about what happened with that whole hysteria with the Epstein files. Nobody, I mean, for like a week, everyone had their hair on fire. And since then, nothing. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's almost as if they didn't find a bunch of dirt on Trump, but they might have found a bunch of dirt on Democrats, possibly. Almost as if that's what might have happened.
I mean, listen, your guess is as good as mine, but even Stephen A. Smith was kind of taking it out on his fellow Democrats. Let me see if I can pull this up now.
Files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration.
Yes, finally. Thank you for noticing.
The same files that were open with the 220 pages of documents or whatever it is, that could have been done when Biden was in office. Well, why didn't you do it? If it's so important now.
Now you're asking the right questions.
Just deducing how much they despise Trump is if there was some real bona fide dirt on him, since you went after him with the 34 felony convictions, which essentially was deduced to him paying hush money. If you had something like that you were willing to parade him through the streets with, of course, if you had something on him about Epstein, you'd have let it go earlier to make sure he didn't become the 47th president. This is the kind of stuff that smells.
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
Meanwhile,
This is my favorite part of this video. I just want to. This is the search for more documents. I heard that Mel Brooks is doing Spaceballs 2, the search for more money. Well, this is Spaceballs, the search for more Epstein documents.
meanwhile,
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir. How about you? Not a thing, sir. What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
I knew you'd like that one.
Oh, we ain't found shit with the pick. Best part of that movie.
Absolutely. So everybody has been coming in, whether you're watching us on YouTube, on Rumble, on X. I'm glad you're here with us. We're going to be talking about some fraudulent bullshit coming out of the Great White North of the United States. The guy who was almost vice president, Tim Walz, apparently has been asleep at the wheel to the tune of $1 billion in fraudulent payments. Billion with a B, folks. We'll be talking about that. And then later on, we're going to be talking about that special election that occurred in Tennessee that Democrats think is this great bellwether. And we're going to explain to you why it ain't shit when it comes to the grand scheme of things as we head into, my God, I can't believe we're saying this, the midterms in 2026. Where did the time go, man?
Yeah, I mean, the year flew by, and I haven't seen anyone of any stature get arrested yet. And the Republicans are going into the midterms failing. Congress hasn't done a goddamn thing. Big, beautiful bill. And they passed that on a party line vote through reconciliation. We're in trouble, Gene. I know we're going to talk about 2026 later, but we're in trouble.
All right. Well, listen, Comey was arrested. He's going to be arrested again once they refile that indictment. Letitia James was arrested and indicted, and they got to refile that indictment as well. A couple of technical problems there. He's got to do a reboot there. But let's get into this whole Minnesota nonsense. I kind of set it up very generally because there's a lot to unpack here, folks. This isn't just one case of fraud. This isn't just isolated incidents. This is pervasive fraud, not only of social services systems, but jury tampering. Voter fraud has been discussed in the past year. And Tim Walz is walking around like the friggin' happy idiot that he is, saying, hey, everything's great. The reason why we're having all this fraud is because we're so good at what we do. He literally said that on TV, folks. You're going to see it a little later. But I'm going to try to set this up with a couple of videos here. I got a little bit of a long presentation here for you, pal, because I want to make sure that we all are on the same page about what we're talking about. Because to be honest with you, I've been doing I've been in law firm world for a good month or so. So I had to kind of reset here and see what exactly is going on with all this fraud. This is Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer. He is the House Majority Whip. And I think this is a decent summary from the Republican perspective as to what the hell is going on in Minnesota.
Is not racist, and it's not unfair. Look, this guy is pathetic. He is incompetent. He's a pathological, sociopathic liar. He lies about everything. Got caught on national TV, Bill, lying about something as dumb as when he was at Tiananmen Square. And his response to that back then was, I grew up in a small town. Sometimes I'm a bit of a knucklehead. Look, my hat is off to President Donald J. Trump. We have been trying to sound the alarm on this fraud that has been going on since the beginning of the Walz administration for more than 3 years. And it wasn't until Donald Trump sent his truth out a couple weeks ago that everybody started paying attention. You have correctly pointed out, it's already more than $1 billion that these fraudsters stole from Minnesota taxpayers under Tim Walz's watch, and the number is growing. It's not just the $250 million fraud case, the largest pandemic fraud case in the country that's feeding our future. It's Medicaid housing fraud. You go back, it's autism centers, the list goes on and on, daycare fraud. But let's just look at the housing one. The Medicaid housing program was created back in 2020. They estimated it was going to cost annually about $2 million. You know what? From 2020 to 2024, it was $100 million. And they shut the program down in October of 2025 because from the beginning of the year, they'd already sucked out $61 million. And this idea that it's not going to al-Shabaab, they're sending the money back to Somalia, Bill. Yeah. People should understand, al-Shabaab controls the financial infrastructure in Somalia. It is going back to Somalia where al-Shabaab, the terrorist organization, is in charge.
Okay, so at the moment, I just want to...
So that's what Emmer is saying. Let's get a little further deeper into it. This is an article from the New York Times, of all places, which kind of gives us a better view in detail about what's going on. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch. When the New York Times is out there talking bad about Democrats, pal, there's about to be some shit talking here.
Yeah, but you notice who they didn't mention. They only will throw under the bus when it's someone on their own side. They're only willing to throw under the bus old white guys, right? I don't know how many times I have to say this. The Democratic Party has no use for white men, especially the ones that claim to be heterosexual, right? So the Chuck Schumers of the world, the Walzes of the world, they're going to get thrown overboard because they didn't mention Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of that state, who happens to be on an audio tape, which sounds a lot like a bribe. First of all, some coercion, and then a bribe being offered to him in order to not follow up on this stuff. But he's not being thrown overboard. Why is that?
Well, we're going to throw him overboard a little later as soon as I find that clip as well.
The New York Times isn't doing it, though. I don't
see
his
name. The New York Times is not doing it. The New York Times is trying to follow the money, but there are some nuggets here from the New York Times I do want to point out to you. So federal prosecutors, and this was even during the Biden administration, charged dozens of people with felonies, accusing them of stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from a government program meant to keep children fed during the pandemic. It always comes back to the pandemic, pal. It seems like everybody had their hands in the cookie jar, but especially so in Minnesota, because what Minnesota has done is they've adopted the Scandinavian style of social welfare that includes high taxes. So this is taxpayer money that has been distributed out, as you'll see, to organizations connected to that group El-Shabaab that Emmer was talking about. Over the past 5 years, law enforcement officials say fraud took root in pockets of Minnesota's Somali diaspora, as scores of individuals made small fortunes by setting up companies that billed state agencies for millions of dollars worth of social services that were never provided. So they say that this is insidious within the Somali population, but they're not saying that Somalis did it. Language always gets people away, as Ross was just talking about here. Federal prosecutors say that 59 people have been convicted in those schemes so far, and that more than $1 billion, with a B, in taxpayers' money has been stolen in 3 plots they are investigating. That's more than Minnesota spends annually to run its Department of Corrections. So they basically stole a full state agency's worth of money. The fraud scandal stood out even in the context of rampant theft during the pandemic, when Americans stole tens of billions through unemployment benefits and the like. But there's a line in here, and I have to find it in the article, where even the New York Times not only points to El-Shabaab and Feeding Our Future and all these organizations, but actually talks about a culture of thievery and fraud that is insidious in the Somali community. Did you see that in the article as well?
No, but I know Somalia is the second most corrupt country on the planet, so it doesn't surprise me that the quote-unquote refugees that come here would be somewhat corrupt themselves.
Well, I just found it here in the article. I want to go up a couple paragraphs before we get to the rest of it. Ahmed Samatar, professor at Macalester College, a leading expert in Somali studies, said a reckoning over the fraud and its consequences is overdue in Minnesota. Quote, American society and the denizens of the state of Minnesota have been extremely good to Somalis. Dr. Samatar said that Somali refugees, listen to this, pal, who came to the United States after their country's civil war, were raised in a culture in which stealing from the country's dysfunctional and corrupt government was widespread. Minnesota, he said, proved susceptible to rampant fraud because it is, quote, so tolerant, so open, and so geared towards keeping an eye on the weak. These Somali refugees who are embroiled in the scandals, the New York Times is linking them hand in hand, not me, were raised in a culture in which stealing from the country was widespread, and they brought that culture to Minnesota. Shocking, I know.
Yeah, and the question must be asked, Gene.
Oh, wait, the question begs?
The question might actually beg, or begs the question that, what other traits do these people have that they brought with them? Their zeal for women's rights, maybe, their tolerance of homosexuals, their, adult relationships with young adults and children, potentially, right? What other traits and cultural, culture did they bring with them when they fled to this great country, right? No one wants to ask that question. Have they assimilated? Have they become Americans? Are they all Yankee fans now? Is that what's going on with these people?
Well, I guess they would be Twins fans now, right?
Nobody's a Twins fan, not even people who live there. So I don't know.
Wow, calm down. Okay. Well, it turns out, so we're not just talking about a couple of thousand people. We're talking about 80,000 refugees in Minnesota that settled there. I guess they like the cool weather in Minnesota. Or maybe they found what we would call on the streets in the People's Republic of New York City, they found a mark. And they took that mark for all it's worth. And that mark is Tim Walz. And as you said earlier, Keith Ellison may be involved in that as well, because it's been reported, and you pointed this out to me during show prep, which I couldn't believe you found. You found that Keith Ellison may be on tape saying that he would be able to help Somali groups like this in exchange for campaign donations. Now, I don't have the audio clip itself, but what I do have is an article from Town Hall, which I'm going to try to share right now, that seems to go into detail on what Keith Ellison might have gotten himself caught into. Did Minnesota's AG Keith Ellison help Somali nonprofits defraud state taxpayers? Perish the thought, I'm sure. Yesterday, Town Hall reported, yesterday being December 2nd, for those of you watching this on replay, shout out to the replay crew out there. Town Hall reported that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was not only aware of the massive fraud from taking place in the state, fraud that not only bilked Minnesota taxpayers of billions, but led to the death of at least one vulnerable Minnesota man. We'll get to that in a little bit as well, and helped to fund Islamic terrorism in Somalia. This is all according to Town Hall, of course, but he was punishing whistleblowers who reported on the fraud. This is a very big story that has so many tentacles to it that it's almost like the Ross Galloway theory of news. They're hitting so many tennis balls over the net at us, we can only bat so many of them back. But this group called American Experiment, and here's the tweet that you sent to me, says that they have Keith Ellison caught on tape pledging to help Somali fraudsters in exchange for political campaign donations. According to this group, American Experiment, Keith Ellison can clearly be heard pledging his support to individuals who would soon become his family's campaign donors and later feeding our future criminal defendants. His recorded statements flatly contradict his contemporaneous public statements and raise uncomfortable questions about the intersection between political fundraising and constituent services. This is a battle that has been going on since time immemorial in politics, pal.
I mean, you could say that has been going on since time immemorial, and there's some truth to that. But the Democratic attorney generals who, especially during the Trump era, have claimed to be holier than thou, seem to be pretty damn guilty. From Letitia James to Fat Fannie Willis to Keith Ellison. Right? I know Fannie isn't an attorney general; she's a DA, but she's still fat.
A lot of overzealous. And really a new crop of Democrats out there that are feathering their nest rather than doing the job. There's a surrogate judge we can talk about in Georgia as well that got she was actually expelled from the bench. We can talk about Tiffany Henyard in Illinois and the corruption we covered for 2 years about her. But now American Experiment, they claim to have this 54-minute, 44-second audio file from 2021. It's a meeting between Ellison and key figures in the Feeding Our Future scandal. And the audio file was actually an exhibit in the trial of one of these people. It was not offered into evidence during the trial. And the people who were involved in this Amy Bach and others, were convicted on 7 counts. And that's what Emma was talking about earlier. Again, so according to American Experiment, the audio has Ellison saying that he is in the middle of the battle with the agencies now, that Walz agrees with him that this piddly, stupid stuff, this is a direct quote apparently, running small people out of business is terrible, and that he agrees with the proposition that there is state agency discrimination against East African businesses. And of course, he's here to help, and let's go fight these people. And then, after this meeting in December of 2021, or actually around the same time, Ellison reportedly received $10,000 in campaign donations, including from a defendant in this Feeding Our Future scandal, as well as other family members here. He also received contributions from unidentified people that were involved in the scandal as well. They protect some of these people who may not have known by calling them like unnamed donor number 2 and things like that. But also Ellison's son, Jeremiah Ellison, who is on the Minneapolis City Council, accepted campaign donations from these same people. This is crazy.
Yeah. And what's crazy, Gene, and I hate to pick old scabs, But, they tried to put Donald Trump in jail for the rest of his life. Steve Bannon did some time in jail. Rod Blagojevich, a Democrat, spent a lot of time in jail. Henry Cuellar was about to wind up going to jail, but Trump just pardoned him today. And George Santos did some time in jail. Why is Keith Ellison not on his way to the nearest jail cell, right? This guy, I mean, if Pam Bondi does not go after this one, and I know it's very early, but 2021 was not, was a little while ago. This guy needs to get locked up. This is on tape, clearly, if not soliciting, at the very least, accepting a bribe.
It's very close in time, too, which is absolutely nuts. So you have all this exploding right now, but fraud goes back even further than what we're talking about. We can come back to the present time, but this video you're going to see now involves that case we were just talking about in which these fraudsters were convicted in. Listen to this story about jury tampering during the trial.
We have new details on a jury tampering scheme at the center of a major fraud case. Federal prosecutors indicted 5 people for their roles in offering a juror $120,000 for a not guilty verdict in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. The U.S. attorney says the group targeted juror 52 because she was the youngest juror and appeared to be the only juror of color.
They have a way of picking their marks, don't they, pal?
I don't know if this is the same case or if they're going to mention this, but there was also one where a jury found some Somalis guilty of this very crime and a judge overturned a jury verdict in Minnesota.
Yeah, you know what? I saw that as well. I only had so much time to put things together, but this is the Feeding Our Future people that ended up being convicted. But my God, listen to how brazen this is, though.
According to court documents, they dug up information on her family online and even put a GPS tracking device on her car to track her whereabouts. During their investigation, investigators uncovered a video of one of the defendants leaving a bag of money at the juror's home. You may recall the juror came forward with the bribe, and 5 of the 7 defendants were found guilty of fraud. They were convicted for stealing millions of dollars from the government meant to feed hungry kids during the pandemic.
Just showing up outside that door with a bag of money. By the way, Christy says I look like a festive elf in green. I don't have to point the ears on, but yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Just showing up with a bag of money outside a juror's house. One of the defendants did it. They didn't even have someone else do it. They did it themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, this sounds a lot to me like organized crime, right? No one ever accused the government of being racist when they went after the Italian mafia, right? So I don't want to hear anyone on the Democratic side saying like this is a racial profiling type of thing, right? The town is all Somalis. The corruption is all Somalis. If you look at the list of names that were accused, all Somalis, right? This is a Somali refugee issue in Minnesota. Okay, so with ICE and with Border Patrol details, go into Minnesota and crack down on illegal immigrants from Somalia. This is not racial profiling. This is just following the facts.
You're a racist. But it doesn't stop there. We've gone through so much fraud here. But it doesn't stop there. Because there was a summer even earlier in the year. I believe this might have even been in 2024. Listen to this story now, because it's not just about stealing money. It's about stealing freedom, too.
In a Minnesota voter fraud case that first came to light this summer, 2 people pleaded guilty in federal court to being paid to help register voters. In all, 500 to 600 fraudulent voter registration applications were submitted to election officials in offices in 13 Minnesota counties. Esme Murphy has been following this case, and she joins us now. Esme?
Hi there, Frank. It was some sharp election workers in Carver County who realized the names and addresses on the voter registration forms. Residents. Prosecutors charged 2 people with 1 count each of voter registration fraud. According to the charging documents, the 2 were paid by an unnamed foundation to help register voters.
Unnamed foundation. It's a foundation that, as you'll hear, that was also getting money from the government to do voter registration drives and things of that nature. Let's continue on.
The two defendants pled guilty this summer and have since moved out of state. The scope of the 2-year FBI and state investigation was not previously known.
And it's very significant that they said today it was 13 counties, between 500 and 600 fake voter registrations. And that's just from 2 of the independent contractors that worked with this group.
The investigation involves scouring hundreds of records.
On guidance from the FBI, the voter registration applications were mailed directly to the election lead, and instructions were shared to use gloves when handling the forms.
In testimony before the committee, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon says the system designed to catch voter fraud worked.
This is a case about individuals who conspired to submit false voter registration applications. This is not a case about fraudulent votes. And this is ultimately a case of the system working.
I'm going to call BS on that, being an election lawyer and seeing how a lot of these collection efforts happen, seeing voter fraud happening in real time, seeing it happen at the polls, seeing it happening in the collections. They only caught these 500 or 600 applications or whatever it was. How many slipped through is what I want to know.
Yeah, and you know the left constantly tells us that this never happens to begin with.
Never happens.
Right? Never happens. And let me just say something. The other thing they say, because they had obviously it happens, right? And even they had to admit that it happens, right? Because we have stories like this. Then they'll say, well, it happens, but it happens in such small numbers it can't possibly affect the outcome of an election. Well, let me tell you this, and you know this, Gene. If I had 500 fraudulent applications or registrations, that's 500 guaranteed votes, especially if we're doing mail-in voting. 500 guaranteed votes. That's worth, you could times that number by 5 or 10 to a legitimate campaign, right? I have to reach out to 2,500 to 5,000 people to possibly get 500 people to come out and vote for my guy the legitimate way, right? But if you have 500 illegitimate ones that you're just going to send in fake mail-in ballots, that's worth its weight in gold. Right. So all these numbers do matter. You can't say, well, 500, it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to sway an election. That's like 5,000 on the other side that are real people that I got to spend time and money to convince them to come out and vote. And even if they come out and vote, they might not vote for my guy.
And we've seen elections, especially within states. You know, we were involved in a state Senate race in the People's Republic of New York that was decided by 16 votes, or as we like to say, a bag of votes. Literally a bag of votes. So when I hear 500 applications being fraudulent, that's 500 people that, like you said, the person actually doing it the honest way has to go out and find.
And by the way, Gene, let me just add this little nugget to this. Several Democrat states, I don't know if Minnesota is one of them, but I assume they are refusing to give the federal government copies of their voter rolls. Why? Right? If they have nothing to hide, why are they not turning over their active voter rolls to the federal government so we can cross-reference these lists with lists of people who are known not to be citizens? Right? Why don't we check that? Or to be dead, right, through Social Security records. This is some of the stuff Elon Musk wanted to do.
Yeah. And it feels like both sides wanted to not do that. By the way, this woman here, you're going to find out, Kristen Robbins, she wants to run against Tim Walz, who was running for re-election in 2026, I believe. So she seems to be jumping on this issue. Seems like she's going to have a lot more of issues to jump on, to point to get these people out of office. We'll see what happens with that. But let's let this finish out here.
How many were in the system is challenged.
Republican Committee Chair Kristen Robbins, who is running for governor, says she has additional concerns that the unnamed foundation that paid the 2 workers is funded by state taxpayer dollars.
Bingo!
99% of their budget comes from state grants. So this is a group that the state is funding and that then went out and did these voter registrations.
I just want to let that hang for a second. This organization shouldn't exist. It can't stand on its own. It doesn't do its own fundraising. It doesn't get the resources from citizens. It shouldn't exist. But the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, Democrats in Minnesota, they breathe life into these corrupt organizations, let them go about their own devices, and it took the federal government, it took Merrick Garland to alert them to this. It's the same story now that we're seeing today. First of all, Merrick Garland has to say, whoa, this is so bad that I have to step in. Think about that for a second. But now think about all the other organizations that have been created that got grants, that's feeding our future people. $1 billion in federal money and taxpayer money from the state of Minnesota. These organizations should not be, they should not exist. But for Democrats like Tim Walz and others who turn a blind eye after they create these altruistic charitable organizations that then turn the charity into their own wealth.
Well, I'm not gonna defend Tim Walz on this, but it's not just him, right? I want to say the USAID scandal, and when Trump shut that down, really opened my eyes to the illegitimacy and the fakeness of a lot of these NGOs. You remember when George W. Bush was the president? He pushed, partnerships, public-private partnerships, and faith-based initiatives to do the things that government really couldn't do. And I was a believer, to be honest, until the USAID scandal. Now I don't believe in these things anymore, right? You can't FOIA a private entity that's getting government money and doing whatever they want with it with very little oversight from the actual government entity that gave them that grant. So I got to be honest, I no longer am a firm believer in public-private partnerships or even faith-based initiatives receiving taxpayer money and doing whatever they claim to be doing with it, right? Because it's impossible to keep oversight on them. And these just illustrate the point, right? Especially if you have a guy like Walz who just doesn't want to know what's going on with it, or might actually agree with the illegal activity that they're doing, right? Because even when they're on the up and up, they're hard to keep track of. If you have somebody good in power, if you have a dirtbag in power, or a retard, as our president called him, there's no hope in keeping oversight on these things.
And the alternative would be, imagine that $1 billion going back to the people instead of going to these organizations. I trust you and your pocketbook and your own selfish financial motives more than I do the government's. People would be charitable with that money. It may not be $1 billion worth of charity, but it'll also be money that actually gets to where it needs to get to. It won't be diverted into corrupt motives and means. But again, we're not done yet, because there's one more clip, and it came from the last cabinet meeting with President Trump, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem went through visa applications coming from the state of Minnesota, and listen to what she had to say about this. Now, it's going to be a little low, so if you guys want to put up your volume for about a minute or so, that would be helpful.
And their fraud on visas and their programs, 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose. And I think he's both, sir. He brought people in there illegally that never should have been in this country, said they were somebody that they're not. They said they were married to somebody who was their brother or somebody else. Fraudulent visa applications, signed up for government programs, took hundreds of billions of dollars from the taxpayers, and we're going to remove them and we're going to get our money back. And we're going to, this next year, make sure that we only put people in leadership positions in this country that love this country.
So I know that was hard to hear, but Kristi Noem was saying that 50% of the visa applications coming out of Minnesota are fraudulent, that family members are lying about who they are in relation to each other in order to bring more people into Minnesota. This is, listen, I know that we like to talk about, this is mob-like and this is mafia-like. This is a bigger racket than any organized crime I can think of at the moment.
Is it, Gene? So
What's bigger?
will the Trump DOJ lock any of these people up?
That becomes the big question.
We're a
And
year in.
we have the evidence. Apparently, Kristi Noem has evidence of fraudulent visa applications.
Yeah.
So now, in the words of Sean Connery from The Untouchables, what are you willing to do?
Nothing. That's what's going to happen. Nothing.
Well, I'm a pathetic optimist, and I'm going to stay optimistic, and hopefully we'll see something out of this. We're way past halftime here on the show, and normally I'd be directing you to the website, buffoonoftheweek.com, but it's under some maintenance right now. So I'm going to ask you to head on over to shop.buffoonoftheweek.com for any apparel needs. Bro, I actually found my old Behind Enemy Lines hat, which I think I got to remake now.
I love it. I dug mine up the other day too.
No, the red one.
The red one I have, yeah.
That's cool. I found this. I think I got to remake this one. This one's pretty damn cool. I'm gonna go on a creation fest and just start creating new stuff. You can check out the store by clicking in you see the upper left-hand corner of the screen right now, which I think is over there. Yep, there we go. Right up there. Click on that or take a photo of that with your phone or your device or however you do these things. I don't really know. And that'll take you to a link directly to our merch store where you can pick up my book. You can pick up some merch and a whole bunch of other good stuff. And of course, I do have to let everybody know that this episode of Behind Enemy Lines is sponsored by our very good friends at Freedom Chat. Go head on over to freedomchat.com. We haven't talked about them in a while, but mainly because we haven't been around in a while. You can go to freedomchat.com and download their app for Android or for your iPhone. Freedom Chat is the next generation messaging app that keeps your conversations actually private. There's no tracking. There's no privacy concerns for you, no screenshotting, no linked devices, just total freedom and security the way it should be, thanks to their end-to-end encryption system, which, listen, I don't know tech, but having had the people at Freedom Chat explain it to me, they put a lot of thought into this, and they've created a system that actually works. Unlike some of those other apps out there, WhatsApp, that will sell your information to the highest bidder and that will store it and use it for their own commercial uses. From using Freedom Chat, they've made several updates since we've last talked about them. One of the best updates is we have a channel on there for Buffoon of the Week, and now you're able to put replies in and talk directly to us on Freedom Chat. If you get their premium service, which is only $5.99 a month, guys, it's well worth it. And you get to self-destruct messages and make sure that there's no evidence left behind from any of the dealings you do. Ain't that right, Galloway? And I gotta say, I'm loving it. We have over 100 subscribers, I guess you want to call it now, on Freedom Chat. There are other people on there. Larry Elder's on there. I believe Dinesh D'Souza's also on there. A lot of friends of ours are on there as well with their own shows. Rick Robinson's on there. KL Orion is on there. Check it all out, freedomchat.com. A lot of big things ahead for them, pal, and we're going to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I'll say this, man. I got a new phone a few weeks ago, and I was having a hard time transferring all my apps and remembering all my passwords. But Freedom Chat transferred right over, and I had a minor hiccup, but I reached out to their tech support and got immediate assistance, and they got me back up and running. So I'm back.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Folks, head on over to freedomchat.com or go to wherever you get your apps, whether it be the Apple Store or Google Play Store, and download Freedom Chat on your device right now. And join us on the Buffoon of the Week channel. We debut videos there before we do them on our social media presence. We have conversations. Galloway likes to annoy me and argue with me. It's great stuff. Check it out, freedomchat.com. I really do enjoy the little barbs we do on there, pal.
No, it's cool. I like it when I'm bored. I'll jump on there and drop, throw some fire bombs in and
listen. Even if it's just like a meme, or a GIF or whatever. That's always there's always something that we're doing on there. So freedomchat.com, check it out. Did you follow this Tennessee special election at all, pal?
I did, and it got me more nervous than I needed to be because it wasn't anything to be nervous about at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what elections do. They kind of raise your blood pressure, right? So both parties are celebrating right now for some reason. Even though the Republicans, this was Mark Green's seat in Tennessee, and it turns out that the Republicans won by about 9 points. And Democrats, in their ignorance, were saying, well, Donald Trump won this district by 22 points. And now the Republican there only won by 9 points. So that means, oh my goodness, what a tsunami is coming for the midterms in 2026. And I'm here to tell you, folks, don't believe the bullshit. And, pal, I just want to give a couple of reasons why first, and then we're going to discuss it a little bit. So the first thing I want to let everybody know is this is not what they call an R+22 district. You may hear this terminology out there. You know, this district is Republican +10 or Democrat +3 or whatever it may be. From the Cook Political Report that seems to measure voter registration, voting trends, voter turnout, and things of that nature. This was a Republican +22 district for Donald Trump in 2024. But for a Republican not named Donald Trump, this is a Republican +10 district. To be sure, a good district for Republicans is a 60-40 district. When you say Republican +10, that means 10 above majority. So that means it's a 60-40 district. Matt Van Epps, I believe his name is, who won the seat for the remainder of the term, and he'll have to run again next year. He won this by just about 9 points. So the R+10 kind of held true, which, based on our experience, pal, in a special election, none of the numbers go true to form compared to a midterm election or a general election year. This is actually a good sign for Republicans, in my opinion.
Especially since it drew national attention and the Democrat raised a ton of money from out of state for a special election that was being held in an off year without Donald Trump on the ballot between Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? That's a very tough election cycle. And Republicans historically, we're getting better at this, but we don't do the mail-in voting or the early voting, right? So we have to hope our people show up on election day. And they came out, right? They came out. And I do want to say this, Gene, because I know I beat this dead horse all the time. There is no party after Donald Trump, right? I'm shocked that the guy was able to win by 9 points, right? 10 points would have been good. Marsha Blackburn, by the way, the senator, very popular Tennessee senator, who's going to run for governor of that state, only won the district by a couple of points when she ran statewide, right? So the Trump factor is what got the 22-point lead for the Republican Party when he was on the ballot. You have to ask yourself this question going forward, especially since we have just about 3 years left of Donald Trump, the great one, right? The true great one, or the greatest one ever. We only have 3 years left of him. After Donald Trump, what are we drawing people out to vote for Republicans that are running for Congress, right? For the last year, we've had Congress. What is motivating people like me, or, maybe I'm not the best example because I'll probably vote Republican forever, even though I despise them. The people who came out and voted for Donald Trump but don't give a damn about the Republican Party. And I can't blame them. What are we hanging out there to get them to come vote between Thanksgiving and Christmas at a special election while it was raining on Election Day in Tennessee? What are we hanging out there for them? What have the Republicans in Congress done? What are they telling us they're going to do? Nothing and nothing.
And I tend to agree with that. And someone's going to have to emerge to pick up the Trump standard bearing. And maybe it's J.D. Vance. I know that Elon Musk has been talking about that and predicting 2 years of Vance, two terms of Vance after Trump. And God willing, that can happen. I think what motivates people to go out to vote is the fear of an AOC type like this Afton Bain was. And they voted out of fear of the alternative to what Republicans have been giving. And I can get that.
Can I jump in for 1 second, Gene? And I'll tell you why it's so scary.
Absolutely.
The left, and I'll challenge anybody on this, Name a moderate Democrat. Name one. You can't.
They don't exist anymore.
They don't exist, right? So the reason why they run AOC type candidates wherever they want, and the left does get motivated to vote in congressional races, is because when they control the government, they use that power. When the Republicans control the government, we don't do shit. We play by their rules. We have a filibuster that they're going to get rid of when they get the chance to do it. They're going to pack the court. We went through this a million times. We won't do those things, right? The government shutdown. Okay, cool. We didn't cave on the government shutdown. But to be honest with you, a clean CR when we're in power probably shouldn't have been what we put in there, right? They shut the government down over a clean CR. We should have packed it with some shit we actually wanted and then forced them to shut the government down, right? We don't get a win. We constantly, as a party, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is different. As a party, we enter the argument in the middle. We propose a clean CR, right? And then they fight us to the left. Like, we're going to now negotiate on extending the Obamacare subsidies anyway, right? We're still going to wind up doing it, right? We just kick the can down the road a little bit to keep some street cred. We start in the middle. They start on the far left. Unless we start fighting like they fight, there is no reason to vote Republican, especially at the congressional level. Zero, right? No one's going to do it. And when Donald Trump is gone, I hate to say this, it doesn't matter if J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio wins. It won't matter, right? Because we're never going to be able to get a majority in Congress again. And to tell you the truth, we don't deserve it because we don't do anything with it when we get it.
Well, I'm encouraged by like the gerrymandering efforts in states like Indiana that are looking to draw districts more favorably for Republicans. But I tend to agree with you that there is a drop-off, and that's why you hear whisperings of the Jeb Bushes of the world looking to make a comeback after Trump is out of office and things like that. We've been hearing stuff like that constantly. I do want to go back to one other thing to talk about here, and that because we do have the midterms coming up, is that many Democrats are out there talking about how this result, even though they lost, is a bellwether for the blue tsunami that's coming. All the pollsters are talking about it as well. You and I lived through an off-year special election for a remaining term of a congressional seat. It was the 9th congressional district in the People's Republic of New York. Anthony Weiner had resigned in disgrace for the first time. You know, it was the good old days for us. And a friend of ours named Bob Turner won a Republican seat in that district for the first time in like 80 years. And we were going around saying this is a bellwether for the 2012 election. And it wasn't. In 2009, I believe it was, Scott Brown in Massachusetts won the governor's mansion there. And everybody's going around saying this is a bellwether for the midterm elections and we're going to clobber Barack Obama and blah, blah, blah. And it didn't happen. Why do people keep getting fooled by the fool's gold of special elections and thinking that they mean anything other than the hardcore people came out to vote and that's it?
Yeah, and I would be interested to see, and I did not look this up, and I probably should have, what the turnout was there, right? Special elections, historically low turnout. So it is just a matter of getting people to the voting booth, right? And that's why, just, jumping back to the last segment real quick, 500 guaranteed votes in a low turnout race makes a huge difference, right? If they had 500 or 1,000 fake voters in this race, it could have really upset the apple cart here.
Oh, especially for like a local race. You get those 500 people to get that extra edge in a local race, to get that rookie elected official into office who will then use incumbency like a snowball rolling downhill to try to accumulate more and more momentum. That's where the danger is in that. But just get back to what I was saying for a moment. These special elections only mean things for that race. There's no bellwether better than measuring your own turnout and working like you're 5 points behind in every race you're in. People got to stop with this nonsense of, oh, we did better than we thought, and therefore we're going to do better than we thought going forward. It doesn't work that way. There's going to be 435 races going on across the country, each with their own local issues of concern, each with their own unique idiosyncrasies in their voting population. And those people who just go with the mantra of politics is local will do better in races than looking for national bellwethers on a random Tennessee special election in an off year.
Yeah, Gene, just do me a favor real quick because I know time is running out.
Yeah.
Give me the 2026 midterm generic Republican that's running for Congress and one of those 435 seats. What's his platform, right? What's he saying elect us for?
That's a great question. I haven't even really thought about it.
They have nothing.
Well, let's.
I love Donald Trump. That's all they can say. The big, beautiful bill, that was his. Okay, now what? What have you guys done since
Okay,
then?
so next year with the big, beautiful bill, Trump is saying that there's going to be an increase in your tax return from previous years.
Oh, I have no doubt that next year the economy is going to be much better than it is this year.
So that's what you run on. It's the economy, stupid, right?
Okay,
if
but
people are getting back more money.
What have you done for me lately? So what is since the big, beautiful bill, what have the Republicans in Congress managed to get done?
Nothing.
We can't even finish confirming the rest of Donald Trump's executive branch. We have U.S. attorneys that the judicial branch is picking for Donald Trump, right? Because we can't get them confirmed in the Senate. What are they running on? Nothing. They've done nothing.
No, I
a year in, we can't get a U.S. attorney confirmed in Virginia or New Jersey. Why?
Because it's been mission accomplished from Democrats in stymieing everything. Let's be honest about it. They have done their job.
So then what's the point of the majority? Do we need to have a Republican majority?
So here's what I see coming down the pike right now. In blue places like the People's Republic of New York, you're going to have a struggle session for all Democrats running in primaries. Chuck Schumer is quaking in his little boots over AOC making him unemployed. There's a lot of people out there, because of what happened with Mamdani in New York City, feeling their oats about bringing socialism, like we played in the song in the beginning of the show. We're going to see a struggle session on the left that I think will scare people in the middle to vote Republican. If districts are drawn, as I think they're going to be drawn in many of these states, and that there's going to be a seat edge in favor of Republicans, I think the left is going to overplay their hand, seeing these far left victories they had. And I think that is going to scare voters straight. That's the only way I see Republicans taking any seats. If Republicans don't make hay in Minnesota over this whole thing with Tim Walz and all these scandals, then Republicans don't deserve to lead. If Republicans aren't going to take advantage of this lurch to the far left that is going on across the country that they're celebrating, then they don't deserve to lead. Period, point blank, and end of discussion.
Yeah. I mean, I'll end with this on this topic for me. Tell me what the difference in your life would be tomorrow if Senator Lindsey Graham was replaced by a Democrat. How would that change your life one way or the other?
I mean, it would change the lives of people in his state.
How? The Senate has accomplished nothing.
Yes, but it'll be much harder to accomplish something.
In the minority, we'd accomplish the same. Nothing.
Come on, I'm being facetious here. If you get rid of Lindsey Graham, it'll be one vote harder to accomplish something.
But we're not accomplishing anything now. So the point I'm making is,
yes, third base.
You have to motivate people to go out and vote for these losers. But for what? Like, usually you could say, like, oh, if we get control, we'll pass Donald Trump's agenda and we'll codify his executive orders. No, we won't. We won't. We can't. We refuse to. We can. We refuse to.
The window has closed because in 2026, and maybe this will be my final thought, I expect more of the same because Republicans are going to do what they've always done. They are going to try to run to the center and not go along with Donald Trump on many things. They're going to be cowards, and they're going to end up losing the House for it. That's the way I see it right now. We've seen it every election cycle. It's almost like clockwork. the year that they have to run for office again, they don't want to own what they want their record to have been. And that was to be, hey, Donald Trump won, I'm a Trump Republican and all this stuff. They're not going to do it in 2026 because they're going to be running scared. And the only thing that's going to save them is if the left overplays their hands and goes too far left. That's the way I'm leaving it tonight. You get the last word here, pal.
This is my final thought here.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to switch topics real quick because we didn't talk about this, but I'll end it with mine with this.
Okay.
So now the far left is accusing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth of being a war criminal, right? Isn't it amazing that now, we talked 80-20 issues. The Democrats are in a position to defend narco terrorists. Like that's where they're at now, right? They were defending criminal illegal aliens. Now they're defending actual narco terrorists from Venezuela and other parts of the world too, because they come from other countries, not just Venezuela. Their view seems to be that we can only utilize American military force when it involves actions that do not benefit the United States in any way, shape, or form, right? When we're fighting in countries in Africa or the Middle East that do not affect our national security or national interest in any way, shape, or form, then it's okay to use the military. When we're actually fighting the war on drugs, we called it a war on drugs for 40 years. When we're actually treating it like a war on drugs, now all of a sudden the military's committing war crimes and the Democrats are trying to convince military personnel to not follow the orders of the commander-in-chief and the secretary of war. For those of you guys who don't know this, whenever you have a planned operation, especially a long-range strike, there is always JAG officers. There are always JAG officers, attorneys, with the commander in the operations center. Always, right? First of all, the admirals and the generals know the laws of war. They also have attorneys with them before they take these lethal strikes and get their opinions, right? So it wasn't Pete Hegseth saying, double tap them, kill them all. That did not happen. That's a lie, right? A JAG officer blessed off on it. There was an admiral there, and that was 100%. And just to clarify this a little bit more, the target was a boat carrying poison, right, by narco-terrorists, a declared terrorist organization. The boat was hit. It did not sink. It was on fire. So the admiral made the call, regardless of whether or not there were people swimming around that were injured, to hit the boat again, right? And then those people died. Fuck them, right? If you're in a war and you shoot a tank, an enemy tank or a building, and you don't destroy it with the first shot, you don't send an ambulance in because the tank driver is on fire. You shoot the tank again to destroy the target, okay? That's not a war crime. I don't know what these people are talking about. The Democrats are so anti-American. And then I will finish with this, Gene. I don't think we're going to attack Venezuela over drugs, okay? I think the path to Joe Biden's fictitious 81 million votes runs straight through Venezuela. More to follow on that one.
Interesting theory, but I got to ask, is it possible that this is another war for oil?
This is where I think the Republicans and even maybe Donald Trump will admit it if anybody would. If it was in fact a war for oil and they admitted it, I'm okay with that. I used to joke around when I was in Iraq. Listen, man, just admit this is for oil. I'll kill lots of fucking brown people to get gas under $1 a gallon again. Okay? I know that sounds horrible to say, and it's a, it's a little facetious, I guess, but it's kind of true, right? And if anybody would admit it, Donald Trump would. So I hope he does if that's the real story.
Oh, you're a maniac. All right, so folks, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show tonight. You guys could have been anywhere tonight, but you chose to be here with us, and we really appreciate it. But for right now, it is time to shut this sucker down. You ready to get out of here or what, man?
The question on everyone's mind, Gene, are you going to play the Mamdani song or the regular one?
No, we're going to play the regular one because I love our anthem here. So, folks, for Ross Galloway, Gene Berardelli, we are Behind Enemy Lines. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. But it's time for us to shut this sucker down, so play our motherfucking anthem. Good night, folks. Hopefully see you next week.
Not allowed, not without electro.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
Democrat cake.